Yeah,
but she needs to be on a better. She needs to be on a better team.
Now that Caitlin Clark has signed a new contract in Europe, ESPN is acting as though they have any control over her decisions. In reality, though, Clark has packed her bags and isn't looking back, no matter how much they scream, beg, or stomp their feet. This is because Clark has some serious common sense and self-respect, because unlike the WNBA's geniuses, Clark actually values herself. She won't stay and play punching bag for a league that can't even protect its biggest star.
She struggled with physical defense she's faced at the professional level and voiced frustration with the league's officiating, recently telling reporters, quote, "I feel like I'm getting hammered and everybody is physical with me, and opponents get away with things that other people don't get away with." That's what Caitlin Clark said.
She has been attacked by fans who couldn't accept that she was the only person keeping this joke of a league alive, and she has been pummeled by players who have been disregarded by the referees.
What I am upset about is like, hey man, your meal ticket is under constant attack. There's been dirty plays all season.
However, now that she's decided to be more valuable than the NBA's beat-up cash cow, everyone is freaking out. Sorry, ESPN. Your golden goose flew the coup, and all you have left is a big empty nest of potential lost after dropping a bombshell on the WNBA. Caitlin Clark is leaving for Europe, and it's almost funny how ESPN is acting like they don't care. After bearing the weight of the entire league on her shoulders the entire season, enduring brutal fouls and having her body checked as though she were in a hockey rink rather than a basketball court, Caitlin has finally decided that enough is enough. And guess what? I don't blame her in the slightest. She is leaving behind a trail of broken dreams and shattered egos.
This kid's on the wrong team. She's got the wrong skill set to handle the physicality of that league, and she's a rookie.
This is not just a player advancing in her career. Recall her 29 points, 10 assists, and 7 rebounds in her final game against the Connecticut Sun. Her teammates were busy staring in a comedy of errors, missing open shots and calling dumb plays that would make a high school coach wince. What did the WNBA do? They allowed the officials to treat her like a punching bag while they watched? Fans didn't sign up for a UFC match, but that's exactly what the WNBA became whenever Clark took the court.
Caitlin Clark was assaulted yesterday in her very first playoff game in the WNBA.
And now that Caitlin has arrived, ESPN and their analysts are finally realizing that they were sitting on a cash cow the entire time. How convenient. Before Caitlin, the Indiana Fever were lucky to draw 3,000 fans per game, which was more like a neighborhood block party than a professional event. However, after she arrived, 177,000 fans packed the arena for every game, a 400% increase.
The Indiana Fever, all right, with Caitlin Clark, led the league in attendance both home and on the road. Fever averaged 17,000.
How's that for impact? They had a once-in-a-generation phenomenon rather than simply a star on their hands. Still, let's continue to concentrate on distributing the riches rather than honoring the one player who single-handedly made the WNBA famous.
If Caitlin Clark is the quote-unquote savior, if she's the golden girl, milk it!
And let's not even discuss the sales of stuff. Caitlin Clark's jersey outsold every player in the history of the league, surpassing Hall of Famers like Diana Taurasi and Sub Bird. This is not only an impressive feat, it's historic. She turned the WNBA into a must-watch television program, and her games were virtually a national event. However, did ESPN ever treat her like the superstar she is? Nope, they gave her tepid coverage, acting as though she were just another player, and now they're scrambling to pretend like they didn't sleep on her. Too late, ESPN. You missed the boat, and it's already sailed across the Atlantic.
The truth is finally coming to the light. The same light that is going to be dimming here in about 12 hours when Caitlin Clark is eliminated from the playoffs.
Let's talk about attendance for a moment. The game against the New York Liberty drew 1.5 million viewers, which is more than some NBA games on TNT. With her departure, there are now a lot of empty seats, dusty jerseys, and talking heads at ESPN who are trying to figure out how they managed to ruin the most straightforward victory in sports broadcasting history. It's funny to watch ESPN now that Caitlin Clark has decided to move to Europe after what has been nothing less than a nightmare of a WNBA career, and everyone else has suddenly hurried to pay attention.
It's important that we point this out. One of the things that I brought up this morning in talking about Caitlin Clark is that some of the players, you want to use the word jealousy, fine. You want to use the word envy, fine.
Imagine being a rising star and the face of a franchise, and the league treats you like a punching bag. That is how brutal the physicality Clark faced in the league was. Forget about defending herself. It was like she was walking into a street fight every time she laced up her shoes. The league responded by acting as though nothing was wrong.
But if you're not delivering the product and you're not making the revenue and you're not, giving people the entertainment that they want, then you're not going to make any money and your league is going to suck.
And let's not even talk about the officiating. If you saw any of her games, it seemed more like the referees were playing see no evil, hear no evil. Clark was physically abused on the court, and she even stated she felt like she was being pummeled there. What did the WNBA do? The notorious I pooped event should have served as a wake-up call for everyone, but instead the WNBA chose to ignore it, behaving as though it's common for a great player to be treated like an outsider in their own league.
And this woman swats at the basketball and somehow decides to turn her hand down and her fingernails and jab them right into the eye of Caitlin Clark. No foul call. No refs stopping the game to go look. Is this a flagrant? None of that. Just everybody moved on.
The psychological cost you are unable to express it in words. Every wasted opportunity, every cheap shot, wears you down. You're working so hard to lead a squad, but in exchange, you're left vulnerable, unprotected, and worse, chastised for not being able to give me a break. Tough enough. The league and its supporting media dropped the ball so hard that it's still rolling, and now they're trying to play catch-up, which is so pitiful.
Those guys, they're the racists, when really, y'all are the racists. The people coming up with excuses to hate Caitlin Clark and the new fan base that she brought.
But hold on, it gets even more juicy. QE Alyssa Thomas's remarks regarding racial prejudice within the fan base. Thomas made allegations, saying that rather than saying, "Oh, I don't know her jaw-dropping talent, and what did ESPN do?" Clark's success is somehow built in racial dynamics.
Honestly, it's been a lot of nonsense. I think in my 11-year career, I've never experienced the racial comments from the Indiana Fever fan base. We had her face on a serious matter that happened in this world, and it's unacceptable, honestly. And there's no place for it. And
instead of highlighting her record-breaking games, they framed her success with this ridiculous story and slapped it up running like it was breaking news. They want to minimize Clark's accomplishments to a racial discussion while she was out there shattering records, setting ankles, and carrying a team on her back.
She's got 14,000 followers. And it's really easy to ignore, and most people don't know who she is in the sports world. The only reason why people even know who she is because of Caitlin Clark. And she still only got 14,000 followers on Twitter. She doesn't have much of a brand.
Clark responded by standing her ground and insisting that her success is the result of hard work and grit rather than some cheap racial narrative. But the fact that she even had to do that shows just how twisted the media's coverage has been. And then, because they clearly can't read a room, they lean into it trying to stir the pot further.
She's the golden goose.
They could have highlighted her as the next big thing. Spoiler alert, she is. But instead they emphasized a story that only serves to degrade everyone's reputation and damage her image. It's shameful, really. And what good does this serve to create in the interim for public opinion? Clark has put in the work and should not have to deal with these sideshow controversies instead of receiving the praise she deserves because it's creating a toxic environment.
Your biggest star, your meal ticket, the reason why you have relevancy, just got stabbed and assaulted and nothing.
The WNBA as a whole is being painted as amateurs by this situation, and let's not even go into the narrative surrounding the league's inclusion. The league needs to wake up. They advertised themselves as the League of Equality and Opportunity the entire season, but when it came time to safeguard their most valuable asset, they abandoned her.
What I am upset about is like, hey man, your meal ticket is under constant attack. There's been dirty plays all season.
The WNBA and ESN are now going to suffer the consequences of ignoring the one player that elevated them to a spectacle that was entertaining to watch. Too little, too late. The WNBA had the opportunity to build an entire franchise around Caitlin and make her the face of the league, but they dropped the ball, and now they've lost their brightest star. Instead, they let it slip away, leaving them to watch as she takes her talents and all the buzz she created to a league that actually appreciates it. Now that she's packing her bags for Europe, everyone is acting like they've just recently realized she's the real deal. Good luck to Caitlin Clark in Europe. She's going somewhere that will genuinely value her talent and won't let her get torn apart every game while the refs look the other way. As for ESPN, they're sitting there trying to spin the story and save face when the truth is they screwed up and let a generational talent slip through their fingers, and now they're left holding a big fat nothing. And maybe, just maybe, this will be the wake-up call they need, because right now they're the punchline to a joke they didn't even realize they were telling. Her departure for Europe will cause complete havoc at ESPN, and they will have to bid a fond farewell to their juicy ratings. The irony is that they finally realize what a treasure they had right before she leaves. So as Caitlin Clark packs her bags and heads to Europe, the spike in merchandise sales and all the buzz she brought to a league that, let's be honest, needed a miracle to stay relevant are now left trying to hype up players who can't even touch what Clark did in a single season. ESPN and the WNBA are left to fend for themselves in the wake of her departure. They could have created an empire around her instead of having to settle for scraps. This isn't just a loss, it's a catastrophe. The WNBA had a chance at greatness, and they lost it big time. Players like Clark don't come along very often, and when they do, you treat them like royalty. ESPN blew that opportunity. Savor Europe, you deserve so much more than this mess, Caitlin.